And so then the bully and his friends start to discuss, how can we get this new kid to play along? And so they decide what they're going to do is they're going to curse him. They're going to bully him, okay? So the new kid goes to lunch and he's eating his lunch, and the friends come down and start to curse him, says, "You're a wimp. Do you want to fight us?" And what the new kid does is he just ignores these guys. And these guys are like, "What's going on, man? Why is he afraid of us?" And slowly what happens is that the other people, the other kids, recognize that, wow, maybe it is possible to rebel against the bully. Maybe it is possible not to pay these stupid taxes. And so they start talking to him secretly, okay? They give him presents, they start to smile at him, they say hi to him, okay? But the new kid just ignores everything, right? And then the friends are like, you know what? We don't actually benefit this much from this relationship anyway. Maybe if we appoint this new kid as the new bully, the new boss, he'll treat us better. And then you have other friends who are like, you know what? This bully, he's fat, he's ugly. Maybe I should be the boss, okay? So just because a new kid comes in, doesn't know the rules, and he's willing to challenge the reality, challenge the assumptions, the values of this cafeteria, now there's dissent. Now there's rebellion going on, okay? And different people are talking to him and trying to form alliances with him. But what he does, and it's really, really interesting, is that he just ignores everyone and keeps focused, okay? And then one day, the bully's friend comes over and says, you know what? You're a wimp. And the new kid finally says, I'm not afraid of you, okay? And then this friend goes back and tells his boss, hey, this new kid said, he's not afraid of you, man. What are you going to do about it? And the bully gets really angry and says, I'm going to go punch his face, okay? So the bully goes in front of the new kid and says, if you don't apologize, I'm going to punch you in the face. And the new kid's like, what did I do wrong? What should I apologize for? And the bully's kind of confused, so he goes away, comes out the next day and says, you apologize now, man! And the kid's like, okay, for what? Tell me to apologize for what? And this goes on for a long time, okay? And then eventually, the bully gets so pissed off that he punches the new kid in the face, okay? So he started it. The new kid, he's hurt, but he decides to punch the bully back in the face, okay? And the bully's stronger, so he beats the bully up. So he beats up the new kid. But what's happened now is that everyone in the school has seen that the bully is not that strong. Everyone's seen that the bully is actually pretty weak. And so they recognize that, hey, if we stand alongside the new kid, we can beat the bully. All right? And eventually what happens is the bully is defeated. Does that make sense to you guys? All right, so certain things to understand is that, yes, the bully has escalation dominance because he's stronger and he's the biggest kid in the school. He can beat up everyone. But what wins the fight is control. What wins the fight is calibration, strategic flexibility. The fact that the new kid has many different options, and he's picking the option that is most strategically advantageous to him. Okay? Now, and what you will notice from this example is the bully doesn't have that many options, actually, because he needs to maintain the idea of face or credibility, right? This is the essence of his power. His power lies in the fact that if you do not listen to him, if you do not obey him, he will come and beat the crap out of you. Right? That's credibility. And he doesn't but the moment that you show that, it's actually not that big of a deal to be punched by him. He's not that strong. Then he loses all credibility. Okay? Which means that he either retreats or he's forced to strike harder, to kill you. Okay? To maintain his credibility. So another way of saying this is that by calibrating your movements strategically, you can manipulate the bully into self-destruction. Does that make sense to you guys? All right? Any questions? Okay, so that's a theory. All right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to apply this theory, the law of escalation, to what's happening in the Middle East. Okay? We're going to do that by looking at the escalation ladders of both Iran and the United States. All right. Okay. This is the US. This is Iran. Okay. So let's look at their escalation ladder. So the first thing the United States does, of course, is something called decapitation. What is decapitation? Decapitation is like, I just kill your leaders, you don't have any more leaders, and therefore you don't know what to do, and therefore you surrender, okay? That's the first thing the US did. It didn't work. So now what the United States is doing is attacking military targets, air defense, and military bases, okay? That's the second step. And the idea is that you beat the crap out of the military so they surrender. But that didn't work either, okay? So then what you do next, of course, is economic embargo, where you basically prevent Iran from trading with the world, right? Prevent Iran from selling oil to China, basically, by blockading the seas. And the idea here is that if the government doesn't have any money to pay its soldiers will just not fight, okay? But that's not working either. So then what you do, of course, is you attack civilian infrastructure, okay? Which is primarily water and oil. So you may have seen the news that the Israelis attacked an oil depot in Tehran. And now if you look at a picture of Tehran, it's all black, okay? And this is a war crime, or this goes against international law because you're attacking civilians. But that's what you do when you feel as though you need to apply more pressure to win this war, okay? And so you can keep on escalating. And then what you do is that now that you've attacked the civilians and they still refuse to surrender, what you do now is you use secret weapons. Secret weapons might be advanced missiles that no one's ever seen before, okay? And the point of these secret weapons is to scare the crap out of people and say, you see how dominant we are, okay? If that doesn't work, then what you do next is use biological and chemical weapons, okay? Biochemical weapons. Doesn't work either? Then, guys, nuclear weapons. All right? So what's really important for us to understand is that you must follow this escalation ladder if you are to use nuclear weapons. And the reality is that, first of all, we have not seen secret weapons. We have not seen biochemical weapons, and therefore nuclear weapons comes later, okay? Unless I see biochemical weapons being used, I refuse to believe that nuclear weapons is on the table, okay? All right, so I think we are here, which is the beginning of attacks on civilian infrastructure. But already we're seeing arguments in the American political system against the use of weapons against civilians, okay? The reason why is that if you do this, okay, if you destroy civilian infrastructure, you unite the people behind the government. Because the idea is that you use airstrikes to split apart the government and the people. And you want the people to overthrow the government for you, okay? That's the idea here. So we are at this stage, meaning that we have a long way to go before we hit nuclear weapons, okay? All right, so now let's look at the Iranian escalation ladder. So what's happening is that in the beginning, Iran does two major things, okay? The first is attack military targets, okay? And what they're basically targeting are US radar systems and air defenses. Because once these two things go, then Iran can attack whatever it wants, okay? It's also close to Strait of Hormuz. All right? And by closing the Strait of Hormuz, you put pressure on the economies of the GCC, as well as East Asia. The hope is that by blockading the economies, the GCC, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait will put pressure on Donald Trump to end this war as quickly as possible. Also, East Asia receives most of its oil from the GCC, from the Strait of Hormuz, right? So China gets about 40% of its oil. Japan gets 75%. That's a lot of oil. So the hope is that these countries will put pressure on the United States to end this war as soon as possible, okay? So that is the Iranian strategy. But if they're forced to go up the escalation ladder, what will happen is this. If you attack their economy, they will attack your economy as well, okay? With missiles, basically targeting oil fields. If you attack their civilian infrastructure, they will attack your civilian infrastructure as well. And what is the main weakness in these GCC countries? Desalination plants, okay? Desalination plants. And that's it, okay? That's the extent of the Iranian escalation ladder. Because it doesn't have nuclear weapons. It doesn't have biochemical weapons. Okay? It doesn't have intercontinental missiles that it can target the United States with. So as you can see, the US and Israel have escalation dominance because it can go way up higher in the escalation ladder than Iran. But that's the wrong way to understand this, okay? Because if you look at their strategies, Iran has much more flexibility, much more calibration than the United States, okay? When the United States attacks you, it's pretty blunt. But look, if I close out the Strait of Hormuz, I can be strategic in how I close the Strait of Hormuz. For example, if you're a Chinese ship, I'll let you pass. For example, if you are a GCC nation and you want to bribe me, if you want to pay me a tax, I'll let you pass as well. If you're a GCC nation and you're like, you know what, forget the United States, I want to be a friend of Iran, I'll let you pass as well. You understand? So by closing on the Strait of Hormuz, it creates a calibration strategy. It allows Iran to selectively and strategically apply pressure to the friends of the United States so that they become the friends of Iran, okay? Same thing with these drone strikes against oil fields and military targets, right? If you attack me, I attack you with drones. But if you don't attack me, then I don't attack you.